Greetings. So I'm looking at a screen here full of pictures from the sun, pictures of the sun taken by the SOHO satellite through the LASCO camera, one of the LASCO cameras. I'm not sure which one it was, but different cameras have different lens on them. But and this was like between 2013 and well, these pictures are old, so they're probably and some of these might have started in 2007 as soon as we could see more with the space telescopes. Anyway, so hi, Kate. Kate's Biz. 78 Sound. Hello. So I finally got around to putting up some of these images that are from the SOHO satellite, LASCO C3 or 2, or I'm not sure which camera it was. But I got them mostly from, I think, Scott Waring before he left his forgot the name now of his website before, or his YouTube channel, whatever it was. Anyway, that's where these came from, and I believe they're genuine. I don't have any reason to believe that they're not authentic, and I think they're an example of, in my opinion, are an example of next levels art in that they've got a crew doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they can, send codes to some kind of onboard computer system. I don't know. Or if they can actually configure objects with their, with different formulas and objects that would, like Doe said, that they use. Well, see, Doe gave us a hint of this when he said that they make vehicles that are imperishable and they make vehicles that are perishable, and but they also make devices, computers or robots. That's what he said, robots, to go places where the vehicles would be too damaged to go. And I can imagine, I could transcribe from that maybe he was talking about the sun, but T&O didn't elaborate on every little thing they said. And the little things they said, though, are enormous. We come to recognize that the more we hear about the things that they said. And I think someone brought something up on the Facebook about how he saw some movie on that was Alpha and Beta, or Alpha and something, or the two main characters of the show. And when he saw it, he thought about T&O. Well, he's been thinking a lot about T&O. In whatever way that actually takes place in our heads. It doesn't mean we have their names in our heads. It's if we're focusing at all on everything they taught, which is all in degrees potentially, and different times. It's more than one and more than another, as we're observing the world and interfacing with it, and doing the things that our vehicles make our vehicles happy that we all have. I think I don't know if there's anybody that doesn't have that, but I could be wrong. I shouldn't say that everybody has it, but considering that this is like talk about the sun, What are some of the more spiritual ideas with that, which goes into astrology, and T was an astrologer, and taught the classroom. Uh, didn't teach us, but gave us the books so that we could learn. The ones that wanted to learn it could learn it. And I've talked about it before many times. And so I'm uh, so in that vein, the father was the 10th house and the Capricorn sign, which Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So there you go. That's the top of the deck. That's so there's probably a chief administrator of Saturn. I don't know, but you can imagine that every one of the planets has a purpose, and that every one of the planets, whether the purpose is now or in the future, that's beside the point. Or used for balance, who knows what? The limit, our imagination is the limits to that. We can't put any limits on it. But they gave us the mythology, or what they did before in a previous civilization was converted into mythology by the media. It's happening now with T and Do. You see dramatizations about them, showing a picture, so actors playing Do. That wasn't the first time. The first time was with it was called The Mysterious Two, with John Forsythe playing Do, I believe, and who was playing T? I don't remember her name. Playing T, and anyway, it's a grade C movie, I'd call it, because it's or D or F movie. I give it a grade F movie. If there's F minus, I would give it an F minus. Well, how about F minus to the 12th power? To get silly, but because but in a sense, it documented something that happened. And it's true that they were both wearing white robes. They made their vehicles white, not white like void of color, which is part of the same. White light is the purest form of light. It has nothing to do with pigmentation of the skin. It affects everybody the same way, or not exactly the same way. I know that, but I'm not trying to get biological here. But when you go to the nth degree of everything, that's where we get into trouble if we try to diagnose everything. That's got to make sense to the nth degree, before we're going to believe that it's accurate information. And I'm not saying that what I'm saying is accurate information necessarily, but there's a lot of things that T and Do have said that end up, since I depend on them 100%, I recognize them 100%. But there's degrees of 100%. So that's why we can't judge one another. It's just not by what we recognize, it's by what we do with what we recognize. That's how we demonstrate to the next level that we're potential members. And that, what we do comes in thought, ways, and deeds, all the things, all the behaviors, everything we do. It can be thought of as, wanting to know how our older member would do it. Now, you don't want to clog the pipeline with asking about every little thing. But you could have the consciousness of asking, so that, it wouldn't hurt to use the word, to ask a lot. Like, for instance, this would become a prayer if it was made into a religion, but it would be like the saying that T and Do gave us all to say out loud to one another, in earshot of one another, for a short period of time, of maybe a week or two, a week probably, or two this lasted, maybe 2 weeks, I don't know for sure. But we were in Mississippi, near Biloxi. We're camping. We're still living outdoors. We hadn't moved into houses yet. And the saying that we got, that Tiendo gave us, because they were saying that we don't have enough thirst. We're not pulling on their minds. We're not, and they weren't all about what we were not doing, but they made it very clear that they weren't emphasizing the positive. See, that's what the human leaders do. They emphasize the positive of all their students and disciples, except in some of the Eastern Tibetan forms, which are, based on the truth that the master, if he really is a master, is going to require everything of that student in order to get them out of their self, because the next level doesn't want any selves. They want a clean instrument that has no self, and therefore that becomes a living entity that is physical, is plasma. That's what occupies the soul. So that soul becomes a next level vehicle. Well, no, it's not. The soul doesn't become a next level vehicle. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. The soul becomes the next level member. And the vehicles that they design for those members to use then are more dense. They're now like a plasma consistency, like a soul, according to Doe. So that's the way we've been given to think about it. And see, from the beginning, I wasn't given that much of that caliber of mind. I would, because it's, I don't know, such a magnificent design and everything about it. There's nothing greater than the next level's design of this planet and all its life forms. And it's experiential design. They don't sit down and write everything out ahead of time. Well, maybe they do. Okay, I'm not saying they don't do that, but it's not like there's an overview committee. Well, there is. I mean, in a sense, but actually, there's not. There's just the chief of chiefs, and so there's chiefs under the chief of chief. I don't know how many chiefs there are. Tiendo didn't say. And then there are all different ranks below them, but ranks aren't the same. They don't wear it on their arm. They don't have it on their uniform, the type of uniform that they have, according to Tiendo. That though we would recognize them, if we were a member of the next level, we would recognize an older member. And the only way I can associate that is the way that I felt I recognized the Doe and T. It's because they gave me that recognition. That's why the Christians say that it's a gift. It is a gift. And it does wash you of your sins for that moment, because when we decide to give our all to the next level, the highest being we can imagine in the heavens, which Tiendo called older members, and the Doe said was T in the Old Testament, and T said was Jesus, Elijah, Moses, Enoch, and Adam to start the experiment. So they witnessed to one another, and that's in the prophecy that was supposed to happen. In Revelation 3:12, I think it shows that. And also Revelation 14 shows that as well, I believe. And maybe some other places, probably a number of places. Well, Revelation 11 talks about the two witnesses, and so therefore it shows, it doesn't say that one's going to be Well, it owes a member to the other in that. But in Revelation 12, it does describe the Father as T. Well, as T in a woman's vehicle, and represented by the sun. And the sun is actually the sun, which is talking about the star. I should go to that. Well, I don't need to do that. This way, I'll cover more ground if I aren't trying to show the scripture of it. Well, no, I don't want people to take my word for it. I got to do that. I know I've been to this before. Let's see, my software's not responding. Okay. There it is. Wasn't too much work. I've been on this verse a lot, but I know there's kind of new people coming in sometimes to listen to this little broadcast. But so these are, since we're talking about the sun, it's important to continue. And I'll go to the chat room in a second to see if anyone has any questions that are on a different topic. Bear with me though a little bit, if you don't mind. Maybe I should check the chat room in case somebody's got to go. So I'll do that. Hi, Slick Rick and Jeff Barnes. Are you from the famous Barnes family, Barnes and Noble? Because I would like to put my book in the store. No, I'm not sure I do want it in the store, actually. Might upset some people before it has to happen. Well, I shouldn't say has to happen. I don't know what has to happen. So Jeff says then, Cub Doggy, been waiting to see you. Okay, so you guys are talking. Awesome, man. Not good for ending. Okay, cool. You're going through your stuff, talking back and forth. Cool. There is an episode of a cartoon called Cowboy Bebop that portrays a cult leader that looks like Doe and shows the name Marshall Banana. Oh, you're kidding. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Well, if he actually, takes care of the criminals, so nothing wrong with that, as far as I'm concerned. And bananas were in our diet. Transfiguration diet was big on bananas. One time we had, as a meal, up to 6 bananas, and they were good-sized bananas. They weren't small. And we've had that with tahini. So, the Marshall, that name might not have been an accident, a coincidence, because the next level has a crew that works on that kind of a thing, and they have actually fun doing it. Installing. Imagine like when you have kids, and they're on an Easter hunt when they're really young. If you had that kind of holiday or that goes to hunt for something in whatever religion somebody was brought up with, or hide and seek, is I guess we're just hiding something and people would find it. That'd be the same thing. You don't have to attach it to a religion, of course. And that's what it might be towards members of the next level on their crews, on their spacecrafts, that are, putting things in front of us and like clues. They can give us clues along the way, and those clues come in different perceptions. and different experiences, and then we get lessons, and the lessons are painful because a lot of times it's the breaking of ties, that we form, to whoever it is that we formed it with, and that the suffering of that yields strength, just like the Eastern religions teach, and can yield strength. It doesn't automatically yield strength. I mean, we can stay in a depressed mode, for however long we want to be in that state. But if we've got a mind to the positive in us still, then the next level will help us. They even help everybody in different ways, but it's not as direct until they see the certain glow on the console on the computer systems. That indicates that somebody is advancing in the human kingdom. And that's what the movie that Tiendo developed was all about in 1982, about the next level working with humans. And humans aren't ugly or bad, or they're beautiful creatures. I mean, not what they've become isn't the beautiful creature. I mean, in a sense, they were never really a beautiful creature, because the only beautiful creature would be a next level member's vehicle, because that would be 100% beautiful, where all the others are copies. That's the way Tiendo. I mean, he didn't mince words. He said they were copies. In other words, copies of the next level vehicle, which was the Adam vehicle, according to Tiendo. And she said that in the Black Hawk tapes. Which I posted on my blog here. Just search for Black Hawk. I think it has one word. If you don't get anything, then search for 2 words. Anyway, I mean, I know there's debate about everything I'm saying, in terms of relative to the record books, is what Tiendo referred to the Bible as, the records. And since I'm at it, the only part of it that we could depend on 100% were the words of Jesus. Not everything in the New Testament, just the words that Jesus was quoted to have said. In terms of what, were the miracles, Doe said that he thought they were 90%, I think is the number he used, exaggerated. And in later years, of course, they talked about how Paul was either was the first Antichrist, was the vehicle for the first Antichrist. And that Antichrist meant anti-christening, anti-chrysalis, anti-metamorphosis, anti as a reality, anti-overcoming all the human characteristics. Which Tiendo said that we don't get rid of, like, the spirits that teach the vehicle to walk. They're teaching the vehicle because the spirits that did it already, so that paves the way for the mind to have something to merge with. That's why there's problems with some people, I guess. Maybe that would be a way to look at it. Which is just one form of overcoming if that happens to somebody. So in other words, if somebody's got, let's say they're born with, they're crippled, is it their fault they're crippled? No, it's not their fault. It's just a product of the genetic code that's been coming down, and the relationship And so that's just another spirit that's being born from that experience. And that spirit can learn probably a lot in a very short time. Maybe that's why some children don't live very long, because they deal with, really bad disease. And a lot of the children that are dealing with that all the time, they're very kind of happy, and forward looking and really appreciating their time. And, and so there's a lot of goodness there. So, we can't judge how much they grow in even a short period of time. So the people that say that how could God create a kingdom where children die of disease? That's irrational thinking. That's not seeing the next level as who they really are. It's seeing them in a religious way where everything was in the creation is magic, except for nature, which came about by itself somehow. Or whatever it came from wasn't what the religious were talking about. But why not? If I was of that mindset, I would say, then why not find out where the religious got that idea? And so I'd go to the source of that strain of mind if I was in the West. But if I was in the East, then I would go through the source, through the Buddhist. And which I believe Tiendo said was that Hinduism was to the Old Testament as Buddhism was to the New Testament of Christianity. So Judaism, I'm not sure. I think Judy, they say it that way too, right? Yeah, I hope I'm not butchering that. Just went out of my mind that that was a correct. I've been saying it that way for a while, so maybe that's been a bad pronunciation all the time. I know it's Judah in the English word that comes from the Greek. Which, for anybody that's potentially new to this live stream, Judah had to do with, according to Tiendo, was meant, well, it was the land and the tribe, of course, and but it was the tribe that was selected by the next level to have students born in. I don't know if they gave. I think there were 600,000 supposedly men. I don't know if that meant male only, because I think it didn't count children. I'm sure there were plenty of children, so they were probably about at least double that, maybe triple that, maybe even more than that in that group. Anyway, but they were broken up into groups because there were different things to learn for the different groups. I'm not saying all of them, because we were broken into groups too, and we got star names. And see, that's another sign of the next level isn't consistent. But see, it's enough inconsistent that somebody can't. They can, but they really can't legitimately disqualify the updates, the updated way that things are done. Like by saying that because there weren't 12 groups that Tiendo split us up into, then we can't be the same people. They can't be Jehovah and Moses. I mean, that would be a way that somebody could get out of having to pay attention to the material. And the next level wants that option to be there all the time, because they don't want somebody that's not going to really press into the next level. And we don't know how much we're pressing. We can, or any of us, because we don't know what we're up against, each of us. And the next level judges us by what we have or we've become. because of all the programming and the genes and everything. And our choices. Our choices is all we really are. But that's not what gets offloaded in the spirit. Except the ramifications of those choices is also offloaded with the spirit. Yeah, so I should say that I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong about it. It is the case with this with spirit, because spirit is synonymous, according to Tiendo, with the word mind. They used the word mind at first for a long time. Maybe occasionally the word spirit came in, but so that's another thing. They didn't use the same religious terminology, and it was even said that was even said about in. Guess I'm getting off the subject, but it's all right. You know what? I've gone too far from going back, so I'm just going to go to something new. No, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the chat room, and then I'm going to go back to what I wanted to talk about. It has to do with the Father, the Son, and the soul. Oh, yeah, I should put it in this order, which would be in the order, just for my illustration, Father, Son, and the solar sun are like, I'm kind of putting them in one group because it represents the throne. And the throne in Revelation 12:1 was Revelation 12 was born, gives birth to the moon. But works with the moon together as the footstool, with the moon as her footstool in Revelation 12:1. Sorry, I just got off the track, and I do that. And but it's okay. I'll go back to the chat room. Yeah, so that cartoon was funny. I know they probably are, sarcastic, and who knows what they're doing with it, you know. But it's just children, I mean, we're all children, potentially. It's no, when we're all children, but just who we're children to, who we're a child of. That's the question. It can only be in one or two directions. It's going to be going with the programming of the lower forces, the negative, or going with the programming of the higher forces, the positives. And I'm not talking about positive as a Pollyanna positive, like everything is wonderful and everything is grand, and I mean, but wanting to convert every negative into a positive is the next level way. So if someone says something to you that's slanderous or detrimental, I'm not saying somebody can't say something back to that person, of course, but for yourself, try to convert it into a positive before you unleash on somebody else. Because so that would mean examining what they said. I think would be a next level way. Unless it's something that's obviously stupid. of course. I don't know. I shouldn't really be trying to give advice, but that is what we were taught as partnerships in the next level. So that's not bad advice, because I don't think there's any better teachings. And Jesus talked about that too. You know, he said if somebody has if you and your partner have a problem, or you with somebody else have a problem, then bring it up to them. Don't hold it in. And if the person doesn't, if you have something to say about that person and their behavior, uh, um, if they don't indicate, well, if they don't take it to heart, they don't change their behavior in a way that you don't want that person around you. If they're doing things that are so distasteful, like let's say, you know, you've 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 survived drug addiction, and and this person that uh, is your best friend or something, you know, is uh, wanting to constantly, you know, snort coke. So you know, you don't want that person in your life. You don't need to put you. We don't put ourselves to the test. That was another teachings from T and Do. We don't set ourselves up. We try not to. You know, we don't go someplace where we're going to be affected by that. Doesn't mean that we can't go out. I don't think. And, you know, it's like there's degrees of this. You know, to where somebody can get on good ground, solid ground. But recognizing that they know that they could they could divert into that direction, and the signs of that, they can second guess them. I mean, not second guess them. They can short circuit that going down that path again, and that's done with the power of their mind. That's what's growing from that experience. Is the a force? It's actually a degree of willpower. You know, as part of that. It's and and that can be developed more and more with everything that we experience, and especially the things that deflate our egos. You know, and you know, a lot of times we take offense when somebody does that. You know, or uh, anyway, I'm not trying to be a teacher, but I guess it's coming off that way. But well, this is T and O's teachings too. You know, if you read The Power of Goodness, it talks about the two different sides of the magnet, and maybe we should read that. Yeah, I'm just not such a good reader. If anybody wants to make this into an audio and not change anything about it except introduce it, I'd love to have it. You know, to have, because we don't have that power of goodness. That was with the documents that Riccoti had access to. I don't know where he got access to them. Maybe Carlin can reveal that, because he worked with him during that time. So, you know what? Me reading The Power of Goodness, it's better for individuals to just seek it out. And I wanted to make some. I got some things I want to try to go over in the Bible materials and in the record books. So I want to get to them because. But it is, I mean, the power of goodness is all about that we create our own solar system. So there you go with the solar system. And that what we are in that is the decider of what to bring in to our mind and body, and what we don't want in there anymore. So with certain behaviors we don't want anymore, then we get rid of them. And the more we want the behaviors and ways of that T and Do were teaching, the more we're actually making application to be a crew member on a spacecraft. It is that real. It's an employment for as long as we want that employment. The choice to leave is always there. But if we, but the next level is making it harder and harder to get in. So, according to T, so that they're very careful about who they give an imperishable vehicle to. Well, I mean, the imperishable vehicle is the soul. Well, actually, it's perishable, but I don't know if it's perishable after it becomes a member of the next level. But in the human level, it's perishable. But you know what? I can't remember that T and Do ever said that. So I might be wrong about that. I know they said the souls that came with them would go back. And that could be 144,000 for all I know. Because T and Do said that at one point, T remembered a dream that she had. And in it, they were in a spacecraft. It was before they came incarnate to take vehicles. And there were a number of individuals that had vehicles, physical vehicles, dense physical vehicles. And then there were a number of individuals there that around the back of them. So around in one circular arc of of people in the spacecraft room. And so around the outside of them, I said that already, but I'm trying to get too detailed. It's not necessary, I know that. But, and so the 144,000 might be the combination of all of them. The ones with vehicles being many of the 38, maybe all of the 38, maybe more than that, maybe all of the 42 if you count the 4 individuals that laid down their lives immediately following the Heaven's Gate event. When Do and students laid down their vehicles, their human vehicles. They didn't lay down their lives, they laid down their human vehicles' lives. It's important to have that designation in there because that's the truth. They were human bodies that they laid down. Now, I know people say that the spirit doesn't exist, but even people, there's even people that have written books that show the evidence in the biology, because of course everybody's got an electromagnetic field, but every cell has its polarity. So there's plenty of room to imagine that they could be formed into objects. And those objects can be actually echoed onto the electromagnetic field of they're an echo. That Do called spirit an echo. So it's echoed on to the other densities of atmosphere and spirit, in what would be called the spirit world, where the dreams give us I think a projector into the existence of what the Hebrews would call the first heaven. I don't mean Hebrews. I meant I should have said I think Moses. Well, I don't know where if I don't know how many quotes there were. Well, a lot of the Old Testament. That's why we can't rely on it 100% because we don't know who God is when God's speaking necessarily, unless it shows consistency with what Moses did. And there are things where he said that he was the one that was talking, of course. So plenty of that. No, but I mean, Tinto did say that that was tampered with. I don't know to what degree and where. It's not just the degree of. It's how often and how far off the track it steered people, but became options though to disengage from the next level. So that provided the positive and negative field, and the next level is always trying to keep that balance there, so that each person can they're nurturing a garden full of living entities, mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. Stepping stone. The human kingdom is the stepping stone into the next evolutionary kingdom, kingdom above human. Those first words about that were evolutionary level above human, physical. They added that to it because they wanted to differentiate between that and what people were thinking was the spirit world as being heaven. I mean, being where the beings are that are the masters. And it's true that they become many of the beings that die that were masters through humans when they died were going to continue to be masters of the spirits that died that were masters before. And so that's how I'm not saying it's one for one because the next level may mix it up somehow. They could direct a spirit from leaving a vehicle into a different direction, into a different container, into a different bucket. Or some of the words they used, a different, not container, they didn't use that, but they used pillowcase. Well, no, I'm sorry. They said chambers. There were different chambers. And buckets was a word for being stored for future opportunity to be interfacing with the human civilization. Which made me think maybe that's the way they see the planet. They take one of those buckets and they say, okay, we're going to give it this mindset to this planet. This assortment of, it could be an assortment of a lot of different things. Astrophysicists, teachers of the young, mothers, fathers, everything, all relationships, all the professions, all are potentially represented so that people can choose what they want as the spirits interface with the human vehicles, which they all do because that's what they want when they die. They want to continue to do everything they were doing before, for the most part, unless they had a plan before they died to go someplace. If their plan is to just merge into the light, I don't know. Maybe that goes into one kind of bucket. If their plan is to go to Ekankar, go to Ek, as is taught by Ekankar believers, then they may go to that location in the spirit world that they consider to be their little Mecca, their little, but it would still be in the human kingdom. It would still be within the confines of the electromagnetic field that is around the Earth, however far that extends. Some people say it extends out to twice the distance of the moon to the Earth. I think that's what somebody said that was I saw recently posted on NASA. But I have a question about that, whether that whole area would be occupied by uh, human level um, souls or spirits. I think the spirits need, I could be wrong about this, but I suspect that from what Tino taught, that spirits that hadn't filled into the souls. So basically, they were humans. They didn't have the potential to live yet. Except if they were brought back, then that spirit could fill into the human vehicles that could be given a next level container, a soul, that can then take that spirit experience and use that to overcome that spiritual influence in order to create the metamorphosis that's built into the whole structure of the vehicle, as well as the mind with the programming of the next level's soul that they implant into people. It's a plasma container, and it's deposited was the first way they described it. It was made, a deposit was made into a human vehicle that they chose. And so the spirits then were attracted to a vehicle that the next level had picked and prepped for the experience of having a deposited soul. It can be picked and prepped in other ways too. They can be tagged, and they're given when they're given a soul. It's actually a chip. It's got information in it, and the information is has certain awarenesses of it built into it, but the vehicle has to be a match for the soul that's returning, or the and for that spirit then to be brought into its ultimate is to since it's all of the human kingdom, it's not going to ever enter that soul. It can't. Oil and water don't mix, because the human kingdom's mind is misinformation mind. It's filled with misinformation. It's like God is this and God is that and God is nothing and God is, it's like confusion about what the next level is. And so that mind has to be gotten rid of. And don't compare it to having, like, as if the vehicle was a glass vase, a see-through clear glass vase. And even though it doesn't have to be clear necessarily, he didn't say it as clear, so I shouldn't say the color of it. See, I was putting my spin on it. Got to watch out for that. Thank you if I got some help from the next level for that. He said it was like a vase. I mean, but the way he pictured the vase in the I think there was a drawing of this somewhere. I see it in my head like a drawing, but maybe that's just the image I got of it. But in that vase there were two containers, and he compared them to balloons. He said there were two balloons in that vase, and the balloons were extending outside of the vase of each one. And he didn't describe, I don't think, how much they were extending outside the vase. But I had the image of that it was looping over, so that it was like going into like the neck of the vase, almost like a. But no, the vase that I saw actually in my head, if I got this image correctly, was very slim at the top and bigger down at the bottom. I don't know. I don't know. maybe that, I'm not saying that's gospel or anything. I mean, from Tiendo's mind, exactly. I'm just giving you my impressions. Um, so anyway, and so in those balloons, the idea was that when you're a human, in the next level, a human vehicle, and the next level um, is putting one of these deposits of this container that don't compare to it being a pillowcase or a pocket. That's how he described this container, and he also described it as plasma. I've said that 3 times now in this time period. Um, becomes the second balloon that's put. Otherwise, a human without that would just be the spirit balloon. I would imagine, but I don't remember Doe actually saying that or giving that picture even. So keeping the illustration, down to trying to be that accurate about it. So the idea was that the balloon, so the spirit balloon is filling up from birth, and of course they get a big dose to begin with from the genetic structures of the male and female or the eggs and the sperm, however that happens, that come together to set that program into motion, and And so everything that's generated by that experience becomes the mind of that creature. And then they're influenced through life, of course. And so then the things that we get rid of, so the objective of the school is to get into the human kingdom. Okay? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, somebody could go to war, become a homeless and riding trains, and can be a wealthy billionaire, that rides jets everywhere, could be an astrophysicist. It could be, it doesn't matter. A religionist is somebody that goes towards a religion or takes a certain spiritual path. Becomes somebody that would be classified as a pagan or a parapsychologist, or doesn't, it's or a musician or an artist. It's all the same. They're all like potential paths. Entrepreneur, okay, business person, a government politician. A lot of politicians, when they get into it, thinking that they can help a lot of people. But then they end up having collateral damage for the people that they determine don't deserve the help. Anyway, so that becomes a whole nest of vipers. Tiendo did compare the human kingdom to a pit full of snakes. And she said she wouldn't have come to take a vehicle here if she didn't have to. And where I'm going with that is that if they could do it by just putting the information into the ethers, was the word Tiendo used for the spirit world, the ethers, which was a common word used in spiritual understandings. I'm going too far off the track from where I was going. Rambling Sawyer. Let me go back to the chapter. Let's see. And there were many similarities to heavens, gate in the episode. Oh, really? I don't know if you're still around here, Jeff, but in the chat room. Oh, Priscilla Pointer played she in the movie. Well, I'll have to see that. I don't know. Let's see, where can I see that? If anybody can put it into an MP3, because I'm not going to buy subscriptions to all different services, but don't go out of your way. If it's something that you can really easily do. But I'm not actually encouraging people to copy copyrighted materials. But the rules of the human kingdom aren't the same rules as the next level has. And if it's not doing anybody any harm, then I don't think the next level would be opposed to it. Just like they didn't believe that the borders were next level away. They have borders. It's not the only way that the human kingdom can grow, or the equivalent to humans in their development can grow. If they're like what Tino talked about them as like human equivalents. Like the space aliens, they said were human equivalents. In other words, they hadn't outgrown the biological and the mental, spiritual attachment to the earth. They still wanted to do things for themselves. They wanted to be the big wig, some of them. They wanted to be the teacher. It's a trap. And those big wigs are back now, and they still want the same things, and they want to be the teacher. So maybe I should do less of that, talking about. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to go there right now, because what I would be talking about now instead of what I've been. Well, never mind. I'm going to just wrap myself in a circle here. I need some focus, I guess. So I'll go back to the chat room for a second. Falcon says, "Hello, Sawyer. Hello. I'm going good. Once I get going with these live streams, I certainly like doing it because I talking about T&O and showing the relationships best I can of what's happening now in the world. And that's what I have on my screen, which you may have just come into this broadcast late. So later, I'm not saying late, but I had this on the screen before, which are all the things, all the pictures taken from the SOHO satellite between 2013 and that were posted, and now, well, not now so much. These are mostly from like around 2007 is when I first became aware of. No, it might have been 13 with the sun object. And that object was the first sign that I had. I'm going to skip to that. Since I'm going into what might be new territory for some. My other screen was where it showed the sun here. That happened in 2013 in harvest time. So it was in, where we are now in terms of the Western. Only one, the West is only important because Tienda decided to come to this continent, to the United States, area and make their classroom here. So their astronaut training program is what they said it was. And so you can see some of those pictures from the other screen there. And while I'm showing my different screens here, I might as well put a few others in there. Book information, the book I wrote. Leave it up long enough so that it's not just a blip on the screen. Because you can always stop it, right? And I just relisted it on eBay. I charged $40 for it on eBay, which is I got them for $25 a piece, and I tag on the fees for PayPal and shipping. I ship it for that price. It's a 5-pound book, and it's 15 years of research, starting around 2002 or 3. And the name of it, for anybody that doesn't have eyesight, is Tiendo, the Father and Jesus, Heaven's Gate, UFO, Two Witnesses. And 2 is spelled out, TWO. Well, I can read my cover, although maybe I have to talk about parts of it. I don't know. I don't need to do that now. Let me go to another screen. This is Tiendo's movie screen. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Astrology didn't have a task on a next level spacecraft at a computer system with a crew doing some of these, or I don't know what they're doing. Okay, but there's a next level crew that's doing those designs on the sun, whether they're objects or not, whether they're vehicles or not. They can be robots. But in the top left is the Earth Lab, and Tiendo talked about that as being Pluto. But in the movie, but they said the movie was fiction based on the truth. Fiction based on the truth. So they weren't saying that Pluto was an Earth lab inside of it. But what I say to people that I talk about when I write short comments, I want to try to tell as much as I can about Tiendo in a lot of the comments. At the same time, I say like Pluto, that members of the next level they work in laboratories, they have physical vehicles, they work in laboratories that or physical vehicles that can be grown on a vine, that are genderless. I don't say all that, but so they work in laboratories and on experiments. They said that the Earth was an experiment because they didn't know what the outcome would be in terms of how many individuals would seek to become members of the next level. Well, if the number is accurate, if that is a exact number, which it might be 12,000. I mean, times 12, so 144,000. But it doesn't have to be exact. The next level doesn't have to. That's what makes it an experiment, is that they don't have to do everything in a certain way, and it puts a lot of flexibility in there. So they're always working on how to help everybody that's asking for help, and the different ways that people ask. I mean, we can be separating from loved ones in our lives because we feel like we need to do something else. A lot of times we get driven out, and that's a good thing, because it's meant to be that Tino taught that parents don't possess their kids. They're like, they should be encouraged to go out and become their own person. I'm not saying that somebody can't get plenty of lessons staying with their parents, living with them. Yeah, they can. They can grow a lot from that. Every experience can be grown from. So if we try to pigeonhole that only this experience was going to work and this one's not, then we're pigeonholing the next level, and it's not going to be accurate. So then the picture to the right of the Earth lab with the Earth in the middle of it, on the top left, is the weather lab, and that's until I understood the science of a little better, the science that is being called supportive science that humans are causing global warming, which is it's not even actually their whole theory doesn't hold any water. But until I really knew that from examining a lot of science, I knew that humans were not in control of the weather because Tiendo taught that there was a weather lab. Now, this depiction of the weather lab is overlooking like a hurricane with a spacecraft. And that's what they are. They're like Star Trek crew, but they have no human behavior. So they don't reproduce, they don't have sex, they don't judge one another by the color of their vehicle. And they can have all different colors of their vehicles. I don't know if the colors mean anything or not. And maybe different vehicles have different colors for different functions. I don't know. Anyway, they also have emotion. You don't lose all your emotion by becoming a member of the next level. No, you hang on to the positive emotions. Love is and the greatest love, according to Jesus, which I think is the best example, going into the record books, was feeding the sheep. That was the task that Jesus left for his students. Feed my sheep. And that meant talk to everybody that is a potential sheep to doe. He's the shepherd. But the shepherd employs workers. And that's what our task is. Anybody that chooses to take the task. And none of us can assume that we're doing it to the degree that our older member wants us to do it for our sake, for our growth. They want our highest capacity. And I didn't give that saying that we were taught to say. I'm going to go back to it in Biloxi, Mississippi, while we were camping, which was like I was comparing to prayer, and I got off the track, and it was to say in earshot of our partner, and this lasted for about a week, isn't there some way I can grow faster to take in Tiando's mind or whatever it was? They didn't give us, uh, to fulfill my task to do, however the person wanted to say it, to fulfill my task for the next level, because they taught it to us as it was a task for the next level that we were doing this. And Jesus taught that too when he said that there were eunuchs that were born of men, and then there were eunuchs that were no, there were eunuchs that were born eunuchs, and there were eunuchs that were made eunuchs by men, and then there are eunuchs that make themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. And a eunuch had to do with castration. Like Christians will say that some of them will say that it had to do with celibacy, and it does. That's becoming a eunuch in your mind. Okay, and so that's part of it. They make themselves eunuchs. In other words, because we need to become a eunuch in our mind and cut off all our sexuality in order to be one of the things that we can understand is the requirement of an older member when they come incarnate again. So even if somebody, I'm giving people excuses to not go all the way, right? Not because I want that excuse, but because that excuse exists. Like I was talking about before, how the next level builds in the option to go what other directions we want to go in, and even burn ourselves out sexually was part of the option to be in human kingdom. So it's all degrees. It's not that sexuality. Wow. Stream resumed. Because they may want to limit me. I wouldn't be surprised if that would come to pass, and I'll just have to do it more. But yeah, sometimes these streams don't get saved because of that. Because I'm having a hard time connecting now. If I change my screen, it's not gonna be in the right place. Okay, well, so I'm not going to describe those pictures anymore because it's an hour and 19 minutes. So I want to get into Revelation 9 a little bit. It's a preliminary in Revelation 11. 8. Itchy nose. Okay, so if I'm going to do that, but I'm going to go through it a little fast. So it's not. And maybe I even can write down that it was an hour and 19 minutes when I started to do the in case it doesn't end up working, I'll just have to read the scriptures. What am I doing there? Moving the wrong screen. All right. I'll go back to the chat room for a second, though. Good evening, the Shino by dog. Okay. It's Jeff says it's huge, 40 worth of OSMF. Well, now you guys are talking a language I don't know. Should be hundreds. That's okay. I don't have to know. Anyway, so I'll get back to my little scriptural part of this live stream. Your book. Oh, $40. Yes. Wow, that's nice of you to say, but it's not worth it. The information is from T and Do. It doesn't have a price. You can't put a price on it. I give that away, by the way, digitally. It's not in book format digitally. I don't have that, but I give it to. It's on my blog. It's posted, and in 7 sections. And the blog name is that. And if you search for the name of the book, and for some reason that doesn't bring anything up, then search for with the ampersand replaced by A and D. You know, even if you just search for, well, let's see, actually, I'm not sure if that search engine is that good on that blog, come to think of it. So that might bring up a lot of entries. I haven't actually done that in a long time. Did a search like that. Let me try it myself. No post found, huh? Okay, let me think a second here. Oh, wow. Let's see. Trying to think of another way to search for that book on the blog. Well, you know what I'll do? I think I have a link to it, so to the first one. Let me go there. Okay. That's a link to the first section of my book on uh, WordPress. Okay, it brings it up. Okay, let me think here a second. All right, I don't need to think anymore. Oh, it's fast thinking. All right, I'm back. So I guess you all, if you're still listening to me, I'm going to go into Revelation 9. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, so the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Um, so that's basically saying that, see, the star came from heaven, so that's the next level spacecraft falling to the earth. But that's not falling. Well, it's falling to the earth because they're laying down their vehicles. So for that time period that their souls are in the human kingdom, they can go astray. They can go from that straight and narrow path. They can give in to the lower forces, and I evidenced doing that, and to some degree, and uh, but they helped me get back until at least providing them with some service. I'm not saying I'm giving the most service that I can give at all, but and the behaviors and ways is a part of that service. So somebody that's conquering a problem in the world can be you know if you want to look at it as a people being ahead of one another, we can't judge that. That's why Jesus said, "Judge not the way you'll be judged the way that you judge others, because you'll be judging yourself, and you'll that means that you'll be deciding something about somebody else that um, that you're not recognizing could be decided about you." I'm saying you. I'm not talking to the people that are potentially listening to this, but just in general, you. I think it might apply. I think that's how it was intended, because what that means is judge not unless you be judged. And the way that you measure others, he goes on to say, is the way that you will be measured to you. And so, uh, and that can happen karmically, when the spirit comes back, because the spirit doesn't die, and the spirit then goes on and goes into other vehicles, and so that other behavior continues to potentially thrive if that other vehicle accepts that behavior. And so, I got the track there, but um, and bottomless pit actually is from the word abussos in the Greek, and it has to do with unbounded, deep. It's used as deep sometimes. It's a negative particle, so it's the negative side of polarity. If you want to look at, the next level is the positive side of polarity that the human kingdom is in the middle of, but is immersed in the negative. But the next level's got enough of their positivity in there so that everybody has that choice. True positivity, what moves towards life, not what becomes Pollyanna positivity, which would be, I mean, Tiando's beliefs could turn into positive uh, negativity if somebody is not putting anything into motion. Well, I don't know if it can turn into positive. Um, isn't working, isn't trying to work for the next level. Like Tiendo said, well, like Junodi wrote, uh, as standing up for Tiendo, believing that they are from the kingdom level that created the earth and all its life forms, and then also then stand for them. Uh, and they didn't even say up, I don't think. They just said stand for them and maintain that stand until the person's departure from the human kingdom. Now, so if anybody's tried to stand for them and then dropped away from standing for them, then for that time period that they dropped away, they were on lesser ground. The ground under them that allowed them to still believe in Tiendo would keep on reducing the more and more they got into the human kingdom. And that's the story of the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. That they got more and more into the human kingdom. However that worked, however that actually happened. The Tiendo didn't talk about that Genesis 6 verse that I ever heard. Um, let's see here. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about something I was writing down there. But all right. So the next verse. Now the fifth, sixth, and seventh of these crew members that are making available information and energy uh, to the planet, especially to the United States area, but affecting the whole planet. The whole planet's going through an accelerated time period, according to Tiendo. All the life forms are going through an accelerated time period because that's what their light, Light, mind, presence does with literal energy. It's more energy to be positive. I mean, no, it's easier to become positive minded. It's not only easier, it's like people are being like forced to even take a step or not. And if they take a step, how big of a step and how often do they take those steps? Become the path. And and everybody can do that path now. That was one thing that was not right about what Mark and or Sarah said, uh, or quoted to have written in an email on the H3 podcast, not podcast, YouTube video, where it was three individuals talking about, I forgot the name of the show. But H3, I think, was the H3 Productions. H3, maybe it's a double H3. I don't know if there's a double H3. It's the same people. But in it, Mark said that there's nothing anybody can do now except that until 900 years when an older member comes back again. Which Doty didn't say any of that. He can't. He's not going to be able to find a quote of that. And I have the letters that he got. And T and Do weren't going to, talk about those kind of things privately with individuals that were dropouts. So I don't believe that Mark got an update. He didn't say it was an update. He just said that's what he said was going to happen. He didn't say it might happen. But his whole problem, the reason why he was dismissed from the classroom physically by being instructed to leave and given help with that leaving. They got a car and probably got some money. And I got $600. So I don't have any reason to think that he wouldn't have got some money too. And was because Mark didn't want to learn that lesson that was called "I Could Be Wrong." So he was so confident in his own opinions, and so now he's confident in those opinions, and those opinions are totally wrong. When he says that the gate's closed. That's a lie. The gate's not closed. Doe didn't close the gate. If you didn't hear it from Doe's mouth in the videos, it's because he didn't say it. Those videos are still available. I think Mark might be providing some of those videos, selling them. I don't have any problem with him selling them, especially because he's got to buy the materials. Next level isn't. Charity's good, and anybody that wants those materials can have them because we have them all digitized anyway. So nobody's without them. So, but see, that's like putting out. That can turn the eyes of somebody else. So that's talking against the next level's truth. Very dangerous ground to be on. And it's not evidence of next level mind to cut people off, tell them they can't achieve what they spent so much time showing to the earth and the whole human kingdom. That's like saying there's only a selected few that can attract the attention of the next level. The movie wasn't about that. The movie was about the whole human kingdom. Tino taught right from the beginning that the whole human kingdom was a school. It was like 12 grades. And that in the first 6 grades, of being an outgrowing toddler was getting into the human things. And the last 6 grades were getting out of the things you got into. And that's a you because each one of us is like a leaf on the tree. For the time that the vehicle is alive, the leaf is alive. And then when it falls off the tree to die in the next season, for the next level, seasons can be 6,000 years. To where the human kingdom starts up again. So always save the earth talk, and then humans can, save themselves from themselves. It's an oxymoron for a reason. You got to become a little moronic to think that, to believe that. You can't get a positive from. You can't get a positive from a negative unless you convert it into a positive. And so they're taking a negative idea that humans can save themselves, which there's no evidence of, because they didn't create the planet and they didn't create the life forms on it, anything on it. They didn't create all the systems that work together, the genetic code, that system, and all the many structures that are very intelligently designed to grow. They're so intelligently designed, they grow, and they grow in more than one way. It's not just vehicular. It's mind growth is the product of the vehicular. Okay, so Keith Solomon says, "Hey, squirt." Well, I hope I'm squirting something that's decent. A squirt is better than nothing. At least something's coming out, right? If we're clogged up, then it depends on what that squirt's what it's made out of. That's what's important, right? If it's made out of next level information, then even a little bit goes a long way because it's not from me. I'm just the instrument of it. I'm not even an instrument of it like its originality. I'm not the instigator of anything original. Because there is nothing original in the human kingdom. Human kingdom is a copy of next level minds and vehicles. And at this point, it's a copy that is dead already. the human kingdom is a dead kingdom. Why? Because everybody in it is going to die. Right? Built in. We know that when we, not long after we're born, we learn that someday everybody dies. So they tell you right from the beginning that you're dead. That's why the Grateful Dead was a good. I always liked that, that band, and they were a happy band. They were grateful that they were dead. But see, the Grateful Dead would be the ones that know that they're dead, being grateful for the next level's presence and joy and ability to live, to have the experience, for the opportunity. So they're grateful for that opportunity. I know that the name didn't come that way, but who knows if the next level gave them that idea, that name. Because it's in the database, even. It's in the mind of the planet. So, okay, so this crew opens up. In other words, this allowed Revelation 9:2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Now, so now we can look at this, symbolically, or we can look at it even literally. And this might be like depicting the way there was some huge forest fires that happened that are bigger than any that have happened so far in history. I hadn't thought about it that way the first time I looked at this verse. But whenever we're talking about prophecy, the prophecy that's accurate, and I don't always know what's accurate. I'm not saying this prophecy is accurate 100%, but it doesn't mean that it's not 99% accurate, or 98 or 95, or some degree of accuracy in it, maybe even a lot, especially when we can tie it together with other things in this book of Revelations, which is what I spent most of my time doing with the book. As I discovered more things that seemed to have relationships with one another, I had to keep on going and dissecting those chapters. Because like Tiendo said that, like there were two witnesses, and Jesus taught that when you do something, when you're approached by two people that have witnessed the same thing, and they say such and such is the case, and you don't believe them, then it's time to bring it to the bigger group, and then bring it to the congregation, so that all the individuals that are of that mindset can tell the one person that the thing that they're doing isn't acceptable in their company. And if the person still doesn't accept that correction, then they're to be not included. Now, I don't know how that would work. If the person still wanted to hang out, they probably wouldn't have been denied, but I don't know. They might have figured out a way to encourage them to go in a different, hook up with a different tribe, go traveling. Could have even helped them do it, just like Tiendo did with dropouts. So, the sun and the air were darkened. It doesn't say that it was totally black. To cover with darkness, to darken, to be covered with darkness. Maybe it is, totally pitch black. And this again can be translated in stages too. So this could still come to happen. Because the sounding was one event. You notice it said, and the fifth angel sounded, and let me make sure "and" was the right word. Okay, yeah, there is a word, Greek word for "and" there. It's called kai, but it also means also, even, both, then, so, likewise, and also, even, indeed, but. But they put a comma there, so that makes it more like then there's a pause. And so the "and" then could reflect something else, another event, because the sounding is one event by itself. The provision of information, and that I believe this was depicting the 1940s and 50s. From someplace in the 40s to someplace in the 50s time period, and that's when the crashes happened. So that's demonstrating, because star can be plural as well. I never did go and complete that orbit of looking at star, and the meaning is the Greek word aster. That is the base meaning of that word. It's a star, nothing else. And that's talking about the heavens. But in the heavens, when there's a member of the next level, they are also talked about as being a star. I can verify that by searching on star through Revelation 11. And so I will give him the morning star. Star is from Aster, the same one, 792 in the Strong's Concordance. And the great star falls from heaven in Revelation 8:10, which is the third angel sounding. I think that's when T came. From somewhere in the 20s to somewhere in the 30s, I think, is the time period there. And during that time period, it could have been T and O both coming at that point. That's what they indicated, actually. But then this one was when the students came, the one in Revelation 9, I believe. T and O didn't go through scripture like this. Only one time did they go over one or two scriptures in Revelation 12, 1 and 2, I think. Maybe they got down to 3 or 4. Do did, not they. T didn't ever talk to us about specific scriptures. We didn't even have a Bible for every person for the first year. There were just a couple Bibles in there. I hardly ever looked at them. We weren't prohibited from looking at them. Though they didn't want us to spend all our time reading either. Unless it was the current teachings. But let's see, star, and let me see another case here. let's see, Revelation 9:1. Huh. I thought there was Revelation 1:20, the mystery of the seven stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the seven golden candlesticks. The seven stars are the angels. Oh, let me see if this star is the same astro word. Then I'll get to my point. Yep, it's the same word. Okay, now here's where stars is representing in Revelation 1:20. Starts where I'm going to read it again. The mystery of the seven stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the seven gold candlesticks. The seven stars are the angels of the seven churches, and the seven candlesticks which you saw are the seven churches. So the human kingdom are being described as the candlesticks. And that's another indication. I didn't think of it that way. And so when the two witnesses are described as candlesticks, that's like saying that they're going to be in the human kingdom. This verse here is because the churches are the believers. And that stars is the same word as Aster. So okay, that took me to what I wanted to go to. And so now I can go back to Revelation 9. Now that bottomless pit might be the inner earth. We did have the book, The Inner Earth, in our library in the in the 80s with Tiendo. Once we moved into houses, that's when we started to have a little library. Before that, I don't know where the books were. Probably in Tiendo's library. They had also the Roswell book. They were never passed around between the groups. I don't remember that ever happening. Well, for the 3 years that we were living outdoors, they weren't focusing on anything of the world in their teachings. It was all about starting the overcoming process, reducing our verbiage in what we say, and then also in our minds, not having so much going on, quieting the vehicle is a big part of it. So Revelation 9:3 says, and there came of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Okay, so now it's describing locusts being a word to describe prehistoric looking creatures, or like chickens are considered to be dinosaurs in miniature form. So then you got locusts are like dinosaurs in even more miniature form. Also, the next level, the dropouts. We're talking about the dropouts. They're the insects. They're all, I think some science designation considers insects to be animals. And I'm curious, do you all see these changes of screens? Because my screen for my software, I mean my YouTube connection, shows that original one that I put up of the T&O paintings, all of these paintings that he painted. I'm going to go back to the chat rooms, and I just noticed that Kathy Southwestern is saying something. And hi, Sawyer. I'm only able to be here just a moment, but I'll watch later. I do have a question. Did Tiendo have any thoughts on the Illuminati? I mean, the supposed elite who control the world. Uh, well, we had the book that was called The Committee of 300. Now, I don't remember if we got that book after T left our vehicle, but that's not really necessary to differentiate. But the Committee of 300, it was called. Doe did, uh, he thought that was a good book, in that this person went around, he did this all, I guess, by paperwork, or digitally somehow. I'm not sure when it was published, but whether I don't know if there wasn't an internet then, but they had bulletin boards and anyway and satellite communications and anyway, but at that time, so maybe it just was a book that they saw in the bookstore. Anyway, but what it said was that what the person did was he went to he tried to find the names of the people that were on the boards of directors of as many corporations as he could find. I guess keep up with or whatever. I don't know what his criteria was, and but he arrived at a top at 300 individuals that were on boards of more than one. And I don't remember what all the statistics were. And so, that's one form of showing what would be part of the elites of the human kingdom would be all those people in charge of all those corporations. And they're the ones that have the most money. And the Illuminati just refers to the families, but all those people are also those families. We're talking about the human kingdom. But that's talking about it with the Committee of 300, it's talking about it removing some of the spirituality that's associated with that, with further representation. That Illuminati have their taken out of the mythological way of thinking, as being the top echelon on the planet, which they are in a sense, but really not. They're like on the bottom of the rung on the planet because they're the human vehicles that are fully programmed to do the bidding of the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. Now, I'm not judging any one of those people in the past or present because, I don't know who the next level might have been trying to help so they could have a mixture. But help also entails, I think, providing them with information, allowing them to go in certain directions, which or encouraging them to, well, I don't know if they encourage. I don't think they do that. Well, the only way that I know that they are still giving the opportunity for the fallen souls to recover is by making their lesson harder and harder. And because that's what it takes each time we fall. Whatever caused us to fall has to be, the next time we are at that place, when the next level saves those souls for a future opportunity, um, have to be met. Those souls have to be matched with the vehicle that caused them to trip and stumble, with a vehicle that has the same capacity to do that again, even though it can happen in a different way. So, but then when each time that happens, when they keep on falling, then eventually they lose awareness of the next level's reality. And I think that's evidenced by the way that some of the space alien groups teach that there is this higher level, but they teach it in terms of being like a spiritual level. That's where the idea of a cosmic consciousness comes from. That there's many levels, and that they know that they're on a level that's beneath others, but they believe that they can all attain to that higher level. And the problem is that if they don't know the formula and they're not performing the formula, and the biggest part of the formula is to be looking to the older members of the higher level. And the way we look to the older members of the higher level is by asking for that help, and in some way, which can translate to a lot of different things in the human kingdom, and that causes us to separate from the human kingdom. And then when we find the information from the next level that talks about rising out of the human kingdom and being someplace in heaven, in the distant heavens where the sun and the stars and the moons are, then we're potentially on the track when we see what those representatives said that we needed to do in order to be in their classroom. And so, Tiendo described that as 3 trimesters. And the Moses classroom was the first trimester, and the Jesus classroom was the second trimester. But the Jesus classroom was the first time that the graduation requirements were given to the human kingdom for that civilization. Past civilizations, not even talking about that. But there were past civilizations, according to Tiendo. At least one, probably many. Well, I believe the different ways that Tiendo talked about it, and wrote about it, and in their tapes. So I know I went to Jericho and back there a few times, but but they also said that the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls gravitated to the people that had the humans that had the most influence over other humans, because that's what the Luciferians want. And so basically they're in charge of the people that are in the heads of all the countries, or most of them. I shouldn't say all, because there could be exceptions that I don't know about. So that ties. So those individuals are also a lot of times part of the same families of people that were groomed for that kind of position, and we don't even necessarily know, because the grooming, the next level can, I don't know if they help with the grooming, or the fact that the Luciferian souls are trying to help with the grooming. But in order to make prophecy come out right, I think the next level, they don't. I mean, they use the Luciferian fallen angel souls breaking away as an example of what needs to be overcome. Okay, their self-confidence and all that. But when people are asking, in the human kingdom are asking for help from the next level gives that help to some degree according to that person's asking and what it is that that person can actually even do for the next level to help provide a balance so that people aren't totally overcome by the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. And they believe in nothing then that the incarnate members. And another example of that, the way Tiendo described it, was that they kept the Jesus materials accurate. And they had a crew to do that. And that was very difficult. And they had to work very hard to do it. That's the way they said it. They had to work very hard to complete that task and to keep the words in the Gospels accurate. And so that's another way that the Illuminati, of course, has its reality. And there certainly are groups of people that think that they're the top of the world. A lot of the people that believe that the space aliens are gods, or that Jesus came back and came back just to one person or two people through a contactee, like happened with Alex. I think it's Alex Courier, maybe is his name. Doesn't actually say that he was Jesus, but hems and haws about it enough. I listened to some of his tapes that were made during his talk that he gave. Alex Courier, I think it is. Courier. I guess I don't know if that was a pick, probably just a pick name, right? But maybe not. Maybe that was his real name. Courier. He doesn't quite come out and say that he's the return of the Messiah and Jesus, but he kind of implies it. I can hear it in some of what he says. I think. I may be wrong about that. But I think other people have said that. And David Icke, I think, at one point thought that he was the return of Jesus. And Rael thought he was. So in other words, this is showing how these individuals then are all potentially working for the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. And many, there's potentially many, because they can ride herd. Tiendo talked about this, how a next level member can ride herd over a lot of cattle, a lot of humans, mammalians, and you can see a lot of evidence of that throughout history, to where both on the left and the right. Left and right mean different things a lot of times, but on the descent to the ones that have the power, that then have a rebellion and then they take over, and then they become the same as, they kill all the ones that were their enemy. So they create the same situation after they rebel. But that wasn't allowed to happen in the United States. To the degrees that it happened in like Russia and maybe Germany. I don't know how much killing was done of people that they might have all been arrested and tried because they wanted them to. Well, they wanted to get information from them on other people that were involved, to arrest them all because they had stimulated that horrendous crime against humanity. And of course, they did it by creating crimes against humanity by killing all the people that participated in it. Not that those souls, or not that those spirits couldn't use that for lessons for future generation. And you could see where the anti-war movement started. I mean, there was always an anti-war movement. With I think probably every war is an anti-war movement, whether they can be outspoken or not. Because most people don't want to go someplace else to kill somebody else. They can't imagine leaving their families and doing that. So they have to be lured into it. And if they are lured into it, then it doesn't mean that they, even if they experience horrendous things, people being killed and manipulated and herded around like cattle and thought of as being, with their slangs that they use, to describe people in the enemy's camp. It's like it's so uncivilized that no wonder why there's like 20 something people killing themselves every day that have PTSD from those experiences. That's a Red Cross number, I believe. Um, so that they can be scientists, that can be, taken over to think about their science in a certain way and think that, the science is settled on this, even though there's all kinds of evidence that it's not settled, like with vaccine therapy and with not harmful to your health, when we know that it's harmful to your health. Science knows that. They have on their forms that they put with the vials of the vaccinations, they have a whole bunch of things that are how they can even stimulate death. So therefore, they do that so that they can't be sued really, because they said ahead of time that this is what it was, and it was up to the doctor to go through all those things with the patient. I don't know if they do that. I don't remember being told a list of things, or my mother being told a list of hazards to being vaccinated. Um, so now, that Illuminati are the Bushes. David Icke did a good piece on the heredity of the presidents in the United States. And Obama was a distant cousin of somebody, high up, a king in France or something, uh, and Bush was a little closer tied to English and maybe Dutch royalty, maybe it was, and maybe French as well, but I'm not sure about that, and even Hebrew potential. And I talked about some of it in the book with a little more detail of giving examples of where I got the information from, which was David Icke's material. I don't believe everything David Icke taught, but I think they're worth examining a lot of his material. I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to it all, but scrutinizing it like everything. I don't have a problem with people scrutinizing T&O's information and everything I say. I don't assume that people. I don't believe some of the things I say. Whatever's. I try to catch myself when that happens. Because belief is based on T&O's information. That's the accurate information. What I say isn't 100% accurate. But I'm not saying that if I say that T&O wrote the document, The Power of Goodness, that there's some percentage of saying that is not accurate. No, but I can prove that. I can show you the document, Power of Goodness. It is posted. If you search on Power of Goodness as 3 words together on my blog, you'll get T's document. But I've got to go check that search mechanism and see if I can make some keywords in the titles of some of those documents so that there are easy ways to get to them. Because that search, or I got to learn how to use that search criteria on WordPress better. Yeah, that's what I got to do. So I can give people instructions on exactly how to find things in there that I got posted there. But also you can search I don't know if you can search Mark and Sarah's. Let's see. I don't know. I can send you the Power of Goodness in an email. Let me put it that way. I can send you all these documents in an email. I got to send packets out all the time. That's my email address. Got an itchy nose still. I don't know if it's something I'm eating. Okay, so let me think if I want to go any further with this. Yeah, I'll go for a little bit more. Well, first I'll read what Kathy is saying. Kathy Southwestern is saying. There is a website called The Vigilant Citizen, and the author details all kinds of Illuminati influencers. I'm curious as to your take on it if you get a chance to check it out. Yeah, I'll do that. Vigilant, let me write it down. Vigilant Citizen. I think I've actually seen something from that website, but I'll look at it a little more. Borkchob just wanted to say hello, Sawyer, and everyone. Okay, hello to you. C colon. Is that like that? Oh, that's a face. A nose and eyes. Is that or mouth and eyes? I haven't looked at it that way. That one, that little colon. Smiley face on a side, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. My eyesight's not that great. It looked like a C and a colon. I guess it is a C and a colon, a small C. Anyway, let me get back to Revelation. Unless somebody has something else they want to talk about. I've already talked about how. So this was depicting and they're described as the power of scorpions of the earth have power, and that's to put poison in people. In other words, they can poison the minds of the humans. And the humans can also poison the minds of the environment to poison the vehicles. But the space alien souls that are depicted here as locusts, they're not. I don't think they're trying to poison the vehicles, but maybe in some ways they are, biologically. Like I know they want to keep humans asleep, so they want humans to really be sexual because of how we lose our energy. And that energy is from recognition of what's real, what makes more common sense than other things. The more we have common sense, the more we can stay out of certain problems that would keep us separate from abiding by next level membership requirements. So And so they're given power. In other words, they're allowed to the way that Bush was given power uh, to have a sword, which had said that power, they wouldn't have that power while they were there. While the classroom was being held, they wouldn't have the power to have a war within the United States. And now we see that the United States war is brewing. There is a war now in the United States. It's the right against the left. It's the Republicans against the Democrats, and all the shapes and forms that takes. There, I don't know if either one can see one of them with a side view. I know there's people in between, but the staunch ones are brainwashed, I think, into that they're self-righteous. And so we see that with the New Age community that are self-righteous and think that they're the gods. And then we see that, and again, now the Illuminati come in, right? Of that we are the gods. We are the chosen ones. And the only thing that separates you from being a chosen one is your agreement that you are God. Because it says, after all, Jesus said, God is spirit, right? That's the only verse they use, hardly. There's a couple of them that they use from Jesus' sayings that they're using to justify that the spirit world is God's kingdom. And that when you even leave your vehicle, you're in a better place. You're in heaven. As long as you abide by certain ideas. You say that you were born again by the blood of the Lamb, and that you believe Jesus was the only Son of God, and gave his life for your sins, which implies big time that you don't have to go through all the things he went through in order to overcome the world. We'd be worthless to the next level if we couldn't overcome our humanness. And the next level gives us the tools to do it in their teachings. But we have to put them into motion. We have to, if it's hard at first, we have to want to put them into motion. And then even before that, we have to want to put them into motion. I know what the layers are. And then we can get satisfied with having them in motion. And if we don't ever ask for the next step for us, then the next level will actually try to propel us a little bit towards asking for the next step. And sometimes that happens through a difficulty of some sort. Okay. I was thinking of something sorry. I didn't need to be thinking about what I was just thinking about. So let me go back to the chat room. No, I did that already just now. But so I was talking about forest fires as this great furnace smoke, and the forest fires that happened in the early 1900s that were huge, bigger than anything that's happened so far. I think millions of acres were devoured in Montana and Oregon and Washington and California, probably. I'm not sure about California or not. Anyway, so that's an example of the smoke of the pit, because on the literal, on the geological way of thinking about it, and then the smoke of the pit is the thinking of the Luciferian space aliens. Their vibration is like smoke. It's the export. It's the residue from the next level's light or the heat, the sun. You can look at it in all those ways. But it has this literal way that it's related to events on the Earth. And I also thought about the Dust Bowl also darkened the sun. Literally, people. I'm not saying that it wasn't. It was like pitch black, like it is at night, but it was very dark. So they needed lights to do anything, I guess. I don't know, because the moon was also darkened, I think. But this is saying the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And so it's also that the truth was very darkened as well at that time. Okay, and you can look at that as when the spacecrafts crashed that the next level brought with them in Revelation 9:1, falling from the heavens. Then that was covered up. So that was the sun coming, basically the light, the starlight, the stars of heaven is the starlight from heaven, is the same thing. The light, from east to west, being like a comet. Okay, but coming down to the earth in this relative to this Revelation 9:1, it was probably signaled by a comet. I forgot what comet came around that time. A couple of them probably. I should document that better. Which comet came with Revelation 9:1? Perhaps. So anyway, that was putting a damper on the reality of the next level's presence with physical vehicles. They didn't have to choose to do that. I think the next level knew that they were going to choose that because they knew where their heads were at. And so they didn't actually want that to be revealed that clearly anyway at that time. But no matter what it was that they said about it, it wasn't going to be what the next level was going to say about it. Because they don't have the perspective 100% of what the next level would say about anything. Unless they have an example of it in the things that Jesus said. And maybe Jesus or one of those what are called the prophets, the Old Testament speakers of the truth, some of them, which I don't know if all of them are listed in the Bible, were tasks from the next level, or it could have been also, I don't know if the Luciferians were able to influence them. So they could have been, though, influenced by the discarnate world. And the Luciferians could have influenced them that way. I guess. I don't know if they were also locked up in spirit for a while. It says that they were locked up for 1,000 years in Revelation, which I don't think means. I think Doe indicated that that wasn't accurate. That didn't apply to the time to come from right now. He said that in one of the Inverness tapes, I believe. I got to look for that. I keep saying I'm going to do that. I got to look at my notes. All right. And they're saying that in Revelation 9:3, where they came out of the smoke locust upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. In other words, they could sting humans with their poison, and their poison is information against the reality of the next level. Okay, so whatever that shape that takes, uh, by even making or against by making it into like Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That's the whole next level. That's the whole kingdom of God, right? Uh, um, which maybe for the individuals that are in the church, that doesn't mean that to them. But what that gets translated to by a lot of people is that there's only that there's just three people in this kingdom. That's it. They don't even talk about it as a kingdom. Well, some Christians, when you tell them that Jesus used the word kingdom, which came from the Greek word Bastille, Bastiles, or something like that, that all he's referring to is he's saying the kingdom of God is the authority of God. Because they're not awake enough to recognize that he was using that word kingdom to relate to the human kingdom. Even though he said the human kingdom he's not of this world. So his kingdom is not the same as the human kingdom. His kingdom was out of this world, or not of this world. But that meant it was many-membered. That was the words that T and Doe used. They said the next level was many-membered. It was another key word that for whoever many of us that choose to work for T and Doe, to stand up for them in whatever ways we can do that, use their keywords as much as possible, and many members to describe the next level. Because otherwise people have a spiritual idea of it being this cosmic consciousness, or the universal mind, or even the Luciferian mind. Some people are confused with that, and they say that Jesus was a Luciferian. And some people say that the Illuminati actually produced Jesus, and it was to control people with, and that nothing he said was true, or that he was just a good human. He wasn't just a good human. He probably was a good human in terms of the best human you could be at that point. Because those said that they felt like he was like perfect, because that was the stage then. And he wasn't going to take everybody through into graduation. He was giving the graduation requirements of giving your life for the next level entirely, in heart, soul, mind, and strength. as Moses also taught. But gets morphed into becoming part of a religion. When the whole religion is showing people that you're holy, right? By clothing, by being standing on the pedestal, and by having holding the Bible in our hands and saying prayers out loud among everybody else, and passing on to others that what Jesus said, which was fine until Tiendo came. And then they were put to the test to put that aside. And you can look at it and see, how it related. But in terms of the authority, the person has to be willing to consider that he returned already. So if we're not willing to consider that, then we're not observing. Just like we don't have the olive oil in our lamps to give us the energy to produce light for ourselves, for our own way, so that we can see the path, and the path will make sense to us then. Because it's a physical path, and we have to become students of an older member. So that starts now. That started, before that, for people that knew about them before. But it always can restart and restart and restart, or it can just stay started. The pace of growth is limitless. And when it starts is over and over again, if necessary. How many times do you forgive your neighbor, forgive your partner, you forgive your spouse, forgive the other human? 70 times, as it talked about in the Old Testament records? No, Jesus said 70 times 7. It had to go further than that, so that there was even forgiveness for the enemies. But forgiveness is what it boils down to, is that I'm not the judge of that individual's soul or spirit. Don't even want to be. Don't even have the capacity to do so accurately. We can judge behavior in ways. We can judge what is deceit and what's not. We can judge when people are harming other people and removing their option to grow towards next level membership, which killing them does. By not following those 10 rules, we can get into hot water with all of them. They all can lead to death of the soul, and death of the spirit, and that happens when we have the death of the vehicle and we haven't learned anything. Then the vehicle was, I'm not saying it was good for nothing, because like Tiendo said, be either hot or cold. In between, you got no use for in between, because it's not going to give anybody the option to become either hot or cold. And it does come down to that eventually, for all of us, whether we do it now or we do it on our deathbed, if it happens that way. But in answer to people that say that I shouldn't be talking about scripture, and then the gate is still open, implying that, listening to me is going through that gate. It's not. Listening to me isn't going through the gate. I'm not going through the gate right now. I mean, I'm not, by just talking about it, I'm not going through the gate. I'm going through the gate when my life is over in this vehicle. And the next level sums up whether I made it a little closer to the gate. That's where I'm at. And that's the same for everybody, to make it closer to the gate. But our thoughts can be that we can make it through the gate. I mean, there's evidence in the scripture that that's possible. Now, I don't know if that evidence is part of what was not correct with the book of Revelation or not, because those did say that John didn't get it all right. So I've got, if Tiendo didn't actually talk about it directly in some way, then I really don't have any grounds for saying some of these things. But I can't think of what I said now that doesn't have some grounds with things that Tiendo have said, so I'm not going to take anything back now. But I'm probably just getting into too much detail, so it's probably second guessing aspects of it, which is not good to do. But I forgot now what it was. I got too far away from that thread. If it started as a thread, I guess everything starts as a thread, right? So let me go back to the chat room, and then nothing new there. So I'll go back to Revelation 9. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Okay, so at this point, of the fifth sounding period of time, and which can actually apply to now as well, as a second stage of that same instruction, commandment. That the earth is still, well, what they're talking about in terms of those men which not, not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Okay, well, those, in other words, the individuals that are not going to be harmed now, the physical vehicles even, are going to be those that don't have the seal. Okay, now how do you get the seal? Well, it comes from the Greek word sphargus, and it means a seal, the sealed place upon books. In other words, the book is closed. Tiendo are my older members. Okay, a signet ring. Well, we had a ring in the classroom, but there's nobody to give us rings now. But if somebody wanted to wear a ring, like a wedding ring, that represents to them marriage to Tiendo, to Do actually. I can't imagine that Tiendo would find fault with that. As long as they were trying to also change their behaviors and ways and trying to stand up for them. Because originally when we got the rings, Tiendo liked them because I wonder if we had if we had some of it, like them because it told the people that were in our jobs that we were taken, so we wouldn't, get hit upon or anything, theoretically. Of course, people hit on people that are married all the time. But if we weren't doing anything to encourage in any way, then it wouldn't mean anything. It also means the inscription or the impression made by a seal. So it's like on the name of God and Christ stamped upon their foreheads, which comes from Revelation 14, is the case. In other words, T and Do have stamped that upon their foreheads. Okay, so it's in their minds. Okay, and it's all these things or any of them. It's not like that's an example of the individuals that were deposited and that responded to the deposit by joining up with T and Do at some point and staying with them. As long as they were staying with them, they were responding positively to that being picked for that. All the souls, however many were coming back, were going to be having human vehicles they were going to be a match for. So that's right now too. So people now that are believing in T and Do are in a vehicle that is assigned to them by T and Do. I think that's what that means. To take over and make the tool for Do, for T, for the next level. Now, you'll never be asked to do something to harm yourself or anybody else in any way. If people are offended by our devotion and that becomes a problem in the same household, well, then it might be time to think about what you want to do about it, and I'd ask T and Do for help with that, and seeing what opportunities are provided. Because I'm not saying I'm not the only example, but I'm one example of how it might go, to where we just we're having more and more problems with my partner and I. And I wasn't trying to make those problems happen. It's just that I was more and more interested in T and Do's material and trying to write. And so even though I was trying to keep up with everything that was necessary to keep up with my daughter, and I was doing extras as well for that. I mean, I wasn't just not just doing the chores. I was reading to my daughter at night and doing all those things all the time. My vehicle's daughter, and because we're responsible for those vehicles. But there's we're not ultimately responsible for anybody else. And so if the next level leads us into a separation situation to where we're separated from those loved ones, then that can be seen as a positive for the opportunity of putting more of our energy towards becoming a acceptable student to T and Do's family, acceptable family member. And it can mean moving away also. It's separating from Being in one place can become stagnating as well. But being in one place can be beneficial if uh, you've already experienced the things in the world that you don't want any more of it. To be someplace rural, like in the mountains, like Jesus said, people go to the mountains when they see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place. So the holy place is the United States. The abomination of desolation is all the lack of believing in and following the rules from the next level. That's what's abominable, and then the desolation is that not doing that makes those individuals into waste if they just continue it until they lose their human vehicle without changing, without repenting. Repent means change. Change your mind, actually, is one good definition for it. Change your mind. Think differently. That's what John the Baptist was saying. He was saying, think differently. You need to think in a new way. The next level is real. The kingdom of heaven is upon us. And someone will be coming who will, he'll be wearing sandals. He said that by saying, I'm not worthy to, tie his latchet together on his feet, on his sandals. That individual knew that his older member was coming. So John seems like was a more advanced student. He knew as soon as Jesus was well on his way that he was leaving. So he didn't try not to hide it. He knew he could say the things that would get him bumped off because he was ready to go. He just knew that. But if he wasn't ready to go, then he would still do some more teaching if the next level helped him stay here. Also, that word seal means that by which anything is confirmed, proved, authenticated, and as a token of proof. In other words, if we feel like Tiendo's material makes sense to us, and it's making more and more sense, and even if we still have problems and doubts, it's not going to be like necessarily all clear sailing in that regard. We don't have to worry about it, but we can just get rid of them. We don't have to give them any time at all. But if we give them some time and we want to try to work through them, then do the things to work through them. Listen to more tapes from Tiendo and ask them for help to go through those doubts. And don't hesitate to ask them for help. It can do you no harm. Your vehicle or your body. Well, your vehicle ultimately it may do harm of because there's many in the world that hate anything like this. Or if it's not exactly like the religion says it is with the exact words, then it can't be true. And of course, Jesus said that he was coming back in a new language, talking in a new language. And the language can also mean terms, new terminology. I think he said that in the book of John, towards the end. But I might be wrong about where that is. Okay, so I'm starting to get tired, and it's the 3 hour mark, so I'm going to start winding this down. But let me see if I can get to a. Well, let me just jump a little bit. Maybe I'll come back to this in the next broadcast to where I continue from where I left off here. And so, but for right now, I'll go right down to Revelation 9:7, where it says that these locusts have the faces of men. That means they're humanoid, and they're of the vibration of men. They're part of the human kingdom, which comes from the word anthropos in the Greek, or anthropos, yeah, which means a human being. That's where they're talking about human beings here. Anthropology comes from the study of the human condition, I guess. And face of a human was also identity of a human, but they're like horses prepared to battle. So the horses then are depicting the vehicles, the human vehicles, and running that horse is a crown that's like gold. It's not really gold. It's like gold. This is Revelation 9:7. And so that means it's phony gold, or it's alike in some ways, like the Luciferian fallen angels, space aliens, or alike in ways of the probably kind and, gentle, which are characteristics of members of the next level. And wise in some ways. Wise meaning, in human ways. Not wise in next level ways, though. But that's why they're considered to be locusts. Their mind is poisonous to plants. They devour the plants, like the plague of the locust did. It's not an accident that those terms are being used, which could have been totally literal at that time. Well, Revelation 9:14 says that there's 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. And so now next level members wouldn't be bound in the river. They're talking about this is happening on Earth, so these are crew members. I mean, still said with the same word, angelos, 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 angelos. That's it. Anyway, so it's to bring tidings or messenger, envoy, one who is sent, a messenger from God. But which God? So, because God is, thought of as in two ways at this point, and not now, or more than that, but it boils down to two ways. Um, well, for those that know about Tiando, then God is or Tiando and crew. But we don't become uh, younger members to the crew. We become younger members to our older member, no. But I think it's though has said that it's okay to use the words T and Do together because T also loves the students of the next level. Jesus said that in different words. Oh, here's that word cast. I talked about an hour ago. Is bellow. To throw or let go of a thing without caring where it falls. To scatter, to throw, cast into. To give over to one's case uncertain about the results of fluids. Pour into the river. To pour out, put into, insert. Wow, I gotta look at that again another time. But uh, these four individuals are they had a king over them. And the angel at the bottomless pit, whose name was Hebrew tongue abandoned, which means destroyer, and Apollyon in the Greek tongue, which also means the same thing. Which means destroyer, yeah. And the destroyer. So we're talking about Lucifer. But any of them that were acting the same way. So that's why we say Luciferians. And it's not that he was a bad person. In some way, the next level, I mean, still loves him, but he's become a bad person because he's not respecting the next level's classroom. So he's there for providing fertilizer for all of us to grow by and being influenced to do anything else but become a member of the next level. That entails still having a job to make sticks so that we can, pay for food and if we can't and we want to get public assistance, uh, TNO gave us indications that uh, there was nothing wrong with that. They had Jim Odie go to an agency once to try to get SSI, and Shimori might have been an orphan or something growing up. I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. But he was trying to depict himself as, not having anything, and he didn't have anything in his possession, really, in relationship. Because he and Do took care of um, all the expenses, and the food was included in that. So he wasn't being dishonest in saying that. And but he didn't talk about being in this classroom because that wouldn't have gone over too big. Well, maybe he could have said something about it though. I don't know. But in any case, they are destroyers, and that they're also compared to being beasts, as being poisonous mammals. You'll see the word beast. The heads, the seven heads they're all the heads of the beast, the one beast, which is representative of the whole human effort against the next level. So the head of the Illuminati and everyone else is in league with them, consciously or subconsciously. All right, that's as far as I'm going to go with this right now. Revelation 9. I'm going to terminate. I'm going to end the live stream in a minute here. I want to see if there's anything in the chat room. I see the screen's never updated on my side. I don't know if they updated on your side. This might just be an audio for part of it. Okay, folks. I know I left some loose ends somewhere, but I completed a few too. So I hope this has been of value to you all. Good night, Jeff. I'm not going to stay to see if anybody else is wanting to say good night. But thanks. Good night, Borg Chob. Borg Chob. Bork Chop. Chob. It's a good thing I'm not really that good with words. Good night, Kate's Biz. He. Yep. Let's see, you've got the boar in there. So like the Borg, is that a variation of the Borg? And you're chopping down on the Borg. But actually the Borg are more like the next level, but without the robotic part of it. They're dedicated and they have to keep on returning to the next level to get refueled by their light. So the next level member can do a task in the human kingdom, but he needs to go back and get fully restored from that experience because that experience has ramifications. That's the way I'm translating that anyway. Borg, yeah, no, I know, but Bork is, let's see, Bork, dork. I mean, I'm not calling you a dork, but dork would be a good thing for the next level because they considered us the family of odd. So dorks are, so a Bork would be somebody that came before the dorks, maybe. I'm just playing with you. I hope nothing I'm saying sounds offensive to you. I certainly don't mean anything like that. So good night.